Welcome to this training session on new Mindplay Manager. There's a handout that will be sent out with this recording for you to follow along, but let me just touch on it briefly. As of July 26th, logging in now to Manager will send you immediately to this new sign-in page. There are 3 different ways that you can log in. The easiest for you to remember, for those of you that are more comfortable with the old Manager, is simply scroll to the bottom of that login screen and you'll see this Legacy Manager link. Click on that and it'll direct you back to the old Manager. If you know your email address, you can simply log in through your email address and your password and go directly into the new Manager. You can also log in using your school ID, your username, and your password. And those 2 ways will take you directly to the new Manager. Now the issue is that some of us don't know if our email was entered, or some of us don't know our username. So if that's the case, you will go into the old Manager and I will show you how to retrieve that information so that you can practice using new Manager. Once you go into Legacy Manager, you'll be directed immediately to your page, your My Accounts page, that will show you your username, your email if it's entered, and so forth. So let's go ahead and do that right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go directly to mindplay.com, just as you did the old way, and you're going to log in through this login link. And I'm going to log in as a teacher right now, so there'll be a separate presentation on what a manager will do. This is teacher login information. So I'm going to log in as a teacher. I'm going to pretend I don't know my login name. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click down here in this Legacy Manager. I'm going to go to the old Manager and see if I can retrieve that information. Your same school ID will work. Your same password will work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in as a teacher. And now you'll notice that as I'm into the old Manager system, we call it the Legacy Management System, I can double check my login name. As I'm logged in as a teacher, I can double check my password, make sure it's what I want it to be, and I can either stay here by clicking here, going back on this lime green link. It'll take me back to the home page of the Legacy Manager, and I can continue as I always have into the old Manager. So everything is the same in this old management system, you know, and you can continue as before. Your same reports, your same students, all that. So don't worry if you're not comfortable with new Manager yet. You can still stay in the old Legacy version of it. But if you need that information, remember it's that My Accounts page up here at the top that will give you that login name and your password if needed to rechange it, or your email address entered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this account, so just to show you where your login name is. I'm going to retrieve that login name, and I'm just going to save that for later, because right now I could either continue with this old Manager, the Legacy Manager, or I can click this new Manager beta link and it'll take me to new Manager. So I'm going to spend some time in new Manager so that you can kind of familiarize yourself with it. Remember, this is a teacher view of the new Manager. So you'll notice here in the center of the screen is where it's going to keep me most of my information that I'm going to be doing on a regular basis. Pretty much like the old Manager, where everything in the middle is really what you want to do on a regular basis. These navigation menu links over here to the left will be things that you do less frequently. Clicking on the dashboard sets you here to this main page. This is your home page. At the home page view, you will see quick usage for your students for the last 30 days. You're going to see the first test and last test since the students, whatever the date range is in there. You'll see the grade level gain for students within this pie chart. And then you can see which classes have been assigned to this particular teacher. In this case, it's only 1 class is assigned here. As I mentioned, in the middle of the screen is where you're going to select actions or reports that you want to look. And for the most part, teachers want to look at those reports or do specific actions. So what I'm going to do at this time is I'm going to click on this class and I'm going to choose a particular action to do. I can delete my class, which I don't want to do right now. I can reset licenses. So, you know, for instance, if my license has expired or I now have new kids in here, I want to make sure everybody gets assigned a license. Just reset that license. Go to whatever available licenses you have and assign that to the student. Now, if you have added students individually, most likely you added a license to those students. But if just in case you want to make sure you want to see which students can get licenses, you would do that on that reset license action. You can data export. This is where you want to do those Excel files to get that raw data in a format that you can analyze yourself. You can either pull up the roster report, which is a list of all students in your class, and their login names and passwords, which is a nice report to have. You can look at the MVRC lesson report, which is going to list the first lesson and the current lesson they're in for all of those individual modules. Or you can pull the raw data for the universal screener, which will list the 3 benchmark scores for your students. What I want to do right now, and force assessment is also there if that's what you want to do for a class. Remember, this is all class level actions that you can take. What I want to do right now is I want to pull reports for my class. The reason New Manager really came about is to allow the teachers to print and export reports for their entire class at the same time. If you remember the old legacy version of Manager, the only report that would print multiple for the whole class at the same time was the improvement report. If you wanted individual reports from your students, you'd have to do one student at a time, which is quite cumbersome for a class, particularly when you want to do something like at report cards time and you want to give a parent report to all your students or a usage report for all your students. Then it was difficult to do because you had to do it one at a time. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to simply pull the usage report for all of these students. Go. I'm going to just do it for the last 30 days. You could do it for whatever date range you want to. Notice up here at the pop-up tells me that it's been queued. So what this action here in the middle of the screen does is it launches and you select the report you want. However, to retrieve the report, you're going to use this report queue link here at the left-hand side of the screen. The report queue is going to allow you to pull the report that you're interested in getting. And so this is the class report I'm currently getting. All reports will stay available for 7 days, and we can get rid of the ones that we're really not interested in right at this particular time. So this is the one I'm waiting. It's pending. I can leave that page and go do whatever it is I want to do. I will be notified when that report is ready. This orange bell here at the top will highlight when it's ready, when the report is ready. Now, reports should be fairly quick, but once you get into multiple students or you get into a school or district level reporting, it's going to take a little longer, but they really should be fairly quick to launch. And there you go. It tells me I have one report ready to go. So I can go to my report queue, I can look at my report, and all the students will be printed up here. If I printed out, every one of these students would print out individually as needed. In this case, it's the class report, so I'm just going to get that class report. But if I want to do individual student reports, then they would all be queued here in line. You can do one single print and they'd be ready to go. To do that, obviously you would go, what I did right there was the class report. If I want to do individual students, you can go to your class, select all your class, or select whatever students you're interested in, and go ahead and select that report or that action that you want to do for that particular student. One thing I do want to point out to this class, now this is a demo class, so these might not be quite as accurate as with real students, but you're going to see this triangle displayed here next to a student. That is simply an indicator, a notification to the teacher that you may want to follow up with the student. The student may be spending extra time on this lesson. Right now the default setting is 3 hours. 3 hours really is not that long of a time to be spending on one lesson. Some kids need multiple repeats, and kids that have been in for a long time, and these kids, by the way, have rolled over for 2 or 3 years. So again, that's why this is probably triggering. But you may want to simply tell the teacher, watch this kid, we'll stand behind them, kind of follow up on them and see what they're working on and why they would be on that particular lesson. It's just a notification. It's nothing for you to panic about, but simply take notice of that a student may need some additional support, or you should check on them and see what's happening with them. But for the most part, what you want to do with the new manager is simply click around in it. It's pretty intuitive. Everything you could do in old manager, you can do in new manager. You're just going to need to kind of play around and find out where those access points are. Remember, the dashboard will get you to this home page. If I were to click down to something else and I want to, go back to my home page, simply click up here on the dashboard and it'll take me back to that home page. The report queue is going to pull up the reports that you have queued up. Resources will get you to the manual, to your training on demand links. Now the resources is not quite up to date, so give us a week or so to catch that up, but you'll be able to get your manual there as well as your new manager training video links. Right now it's still the old manager links. Action log, you're probably not going to use that very often, but this will tell you information about who's logged in, when they logged in, what actions were done to your class. You can see if somebody deleted students or added students. This really is at a manager the program manager will most likely use this, as well as Mindplay personnel to identify what happened within that system. Batch jobs tend to be for the district as well. It's pulling up these large files. It'll be, for adding and deleting large numbers of students, so you probably won't do that at the class level. Knowledge base is going to be a quick link for you to get into our knowledge base to ask some of those most frequently asked questions. For instance, if you want to know what is fidelity, simply type in what you want to know, give you some information about whatever question you might have. So that's a new feature added here within this new management system. The system requirements are here. You can click here. It'll tell you what system requirements are needed to run the program efficiently in your school, or you can share this information with your district IT people if they don't have access to it. But both the knowledge base and the system requirements are available from the mindplay.com website as well. A new feature is this support request. If you're working in manager, you're running across a question, you're confused, or you need help on identifying, what does this pie chart mean? Simply let us know. Write your information here. You don't need to go to your own email account, which is really nice. It's going to go directly into our support system from here. So it should be a quick way to get you some information. And then finally, Legacy Manager. If you would like to return back to Legacy Manager, you're more comfortable in it, you want to go force a test and you remember how to do it there, then you can simply click here and go back to Legacy Manager. But for the most part, you're going to find out that the new manager is fairly easy to maneuver in and out of. Your basic features are here on this home page. You're allowed to create another class because you are, if your school allows you to create another class. Or if you want to add another student, make sure you go down to that student level, create a student, simply click it here at the right. You'll see you get to click on that student. You're going to add a student like you did before, first name, last name, username, grade level. Student tracking number is optional. You are not required to do that. Make sure you assign a student license. If you don't assign a student license, that student will not be able to log in. Password, and this is new for this year, the password for any new student is going to require 6 characters or more, and you must include letters and numbers. So that's new. In the previous version we got to do just 1, 2, 3 or ABC. That's no longer going to be allowed. You're going to need to pick something that is 6 characters in length at a minimum. All students that currently exist can keep the remaining password, but if you're to go in and edit that student in any way, you will get a prompt that tells you to change the student password. If you know the demographics, make sure you check it right then and there. It's easier to do it now than to go back and do it, but you can always do that at a later time. The at-risk notation will set the universal screener to start at the first grade level. This should be used sparingly, and it's typically for students that are 3 or 4 years below their actual grade level in reading, if you know that as the classroom teacher. This kind of gives the kids a running start to get going on the assessment. Kids that will be, are test anxious or have some anxiety about test taking, you may want to start it here. But really I would use it sparingly because the test is adaptive by nature anyways, and it will go down to kindergarten level or up to 12th grade level for any student that would need that. Going back into the management system, if you're a teacher, you've got an existing class, you want to change your grade level this year, you know, your district's not doing it for you, you're going to do it. Clicking on this pencil will provide you access to those edit features. If you remember the old version of Manager, you would have a general class tab, and then you would have a more advanced tab. This time in the new Manager, they're all on one tab. They're all on this same page. So at the top are your general features. If you want to choose more than one teacher to assign the class to, that's a new option you have now. Instead of just having it as one teacher or as a shared class, you can assign it to multiple teachers. At the bottom, you can have these optional advanced settings. Again, we encourage teachers to just leave them alone, leave them as is. You know, our program was designed with these settings using these default values, but a teacher knows their students and knows their class and knows what's best for them. You know, if you do not want them having access to the avatar or spending the currency or using the leaderboard, then certainly I would encourage you to go ahead and uncheck them. But by default, they are set on, and everything by default is ready to go as is. So you really don't need to be doing anything with these advanced settings unless you know a particular student that would benefit from having some change in those settings. But again, I'm going to go back to the dashboard. Basically just leave it alone. Simply create your class or add your students, and your students will be ready to go for this school year. In a week or so, you will be able to access the chapter, the new manager chapter. It's going to be a separate chapter in this resources. So please feel free to click on this resources, download yourself a version of the new manager, and it'll help walk you through some of these issues. You will also be provided with this handout that will kind of walk you through retrieving that information as well. So feel free to share that with anybody that you think it would help as well. And so with that, I do thank you for your time, and if you do have questions, be sure to get a hold of Mindplay. Do support@mindplay.com. Thank you.